And now we're going to move on to talk about other movies that Steven Spielberg has produced.
Cool.
So I guess because this movie definitely was vibing off of Goonies a little bit, let's talk about Goonies.
So good.
Goonies.
It's a classic.
It is classic.
Everybody grew up with the Goonies.
Yes. Well, not everyone, but everyone in our generation.
Well, that's true, I guess.
But yeah, you know, you have Goonies, you have these kids, their town is going to be taken over by this evil conglomerate, and so the kids are going on like kind of one last adventure to find One-Eye Willie's treasure in hopes of being able to save the town. And you have the kid that was Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You have Sean Astin, and you've got all these kids that wound up becoming like big stars.
I know, it's crazy.
So Josh Brolin is in there,
yeah.
And they go into the town. They've been being chased by the Fratellis, and you've got Sloth.
Sloth is awesome.
The most put upon of the Fratellis, who was dropped on his head a few times and turned into a monster. But you have Chunk, the fat kid who befriends Sloth.
Yeah.
And they bond over Baby Ruth.
And you know, they're just a couple kind of gross-looking rejects chilling out.
Just having a good time. And then they adopt him at the end, and you're just like, oh. Dear, you're gonna live with us, Sloth. You know, really, and his ear wiggles, and you're like, oh.
I love that part. It's sweet. It's a really sentimental movie, but it's fun. And that's another one like this with, you know, kids in their natural habitats, talking as children do.
And I suppose, you know, you could say the same thing about Goonies, that hey, maybe it would have been better if they didn't go on this big adventure, but I guess in that case
the adventure there.
So,
I mean, that's the movie. There it is, like really the adventure, and I love that movie. It's just so good.
And you have all the One-Eye Willie booby traps and booty traps.
Yes. Don't let Grandma.
And it's good stuff. It's just good stuff. Basically, it was a kid's version of Indiana Jones.
Yep.
That's kind of what it was marketed as. Like, oh, it's Spielberg presents Indiana Jones with kids. Yay! And it was directed by Richard Donner, who had done the Superman movies and, among other things, Lethal Weapon movies. And it was written by Christopher Columbus, who went on to direct Home Alone and the first two Harry Potter movies.
So he obviously knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. Another kind of monster-ish movie, Gremlins.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh man, that's one that it kind of creeped me out as a kid.
Well,
it's weird.
That and Temple of Doom were the two movies that brought about the creation of PG-13.
Yeah.
Because they were so violent, because at the time, you know, we're so used to having PG-13, but at the time there was PG and there was R. There was nothing in the middle. And so a lot of times you had movies get rated PG, like Jaws was rated PG.
Yeah.
Poltergeist rated PG. Today those movies wouldn't be rated PG.
And if I remember correctly, one of the Cheech and Chong movies was originally rated PG.
Right. Because there wasn't quite bad enough to be R-rated, but there was nothing in the middle. So Gremlins was so gross, and I think it was the microwave scene that was really the kicker.
Yeah.
And that's why they have PG-13 now. But there was but Gremlins just had this real dark, kind of cynical sense of humor, and and then there's the whole creepy story where Phoebe Cates talks about why she doesn't like Christmas.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is really upsetting.
Twisted movie, yeah. Yeah, there really wasn't too much along those lines of really sick humor at the time. So it really kind of ushered in a whole new genre.
And it was set during Christmas time, and throughout the movie you have like shots of like TV sets that are playing, like It's a Wonderful Life, and the town is kind of like one of those It's a Wonderful Life, like Norman Rockwell paintings, and they have it trashed by the Gremlins.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of a satire on Christmas time, and it was Joe Dante, and Joe Dante always loves putting references to other movies. So like the father is at some like Inventors convention, and you see Robbie the robot from Lost in Space in the background. Awesome. And speaking of Joe Dante, another one that was produced by Spielberg was Inner Space.
It's a good one also.
Where it's kind of a riff on what was it? The Fantastic Voyage. Yeah. And you have Martin Short gets Dennis Quaid put into his body, like shrunk down. He's supposed to.
It's a very disturbing notion.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid is this like military guy, and he's supposed to be shrunk down and put into someone else's body to do some sort of like medical research or something like that. But he accidentally gets put into Martin Short's body, and
Dear Lord.
so he has him like communicating with him, and Meg Ryan was in it. It was one of her earliest films, and it's a strange movie.
It really is. It's just kind of weird, yeah.
But it's really it's funny, and it's a good time, and it's one of those movies that kind of fell through the cracks, and like I think it was a hit at the time, but not many people are aware of it now.
No, it's not really.
But it's worth checking out. It wouldn't be a bad double feature with Gremlins. You just need to do a Joe Dante marathon, people. Throw in some howling in there, and maybe some Small Soldiers, some Looney Tunes back in action. Yes.
Which we've already agreed is epic.
And then there's Arachnophobia. Another Spielberg produced one. You're creeped out by it, huh?
I'm not even afraid of spiders, or I wasn't. And then I saw that movie as a kid, and I don't mind spiders, but if they touch me, I'm gonna freak out. I just imagine the part with the guy looking down his sleeping bag.
Yeah. And then they have like, and this is like a fear that for everybody, just spider by the toilet.
Yeah, spider by the toilet, or popcorn.
Like spider in the shoe. Like that movie covers all the places. You do not want
sleeping bag, shoe, toilet, popcorn, nose crawling out.
Yeah, but
that
it's
movie
also
gives me the heebie-jeebies so
but
bad.
It's also very funny because you have John Goodman as the exterminator, and he's so funny.
It's epic. I love it.
And you have Jeff Daniels as this guy who has the arachnophobia, and you have this deadly spider that came from don't remember
someplace
where
in South America or something, and then it breeds with a black widow or something, and they create the super deadly spider.
Yeah, and
it's fast and it's
so then you have the final confrontation between Jeff Daniels and this super spider, and it's good fun. It's just good creepy fun.
The place looks way too much like where I live for it to be good creepy fun.
And it's another kind of example of that perfect Norman Rockwell style town that's being
nice little backwoods town,
perfect
quiet.
New England style town that's just being run amok
by spiders,
and gremlins and poltergeists. That's another one. Poltergeist is good stuff.
It will haunt your childhood also. What is it? Come on, Spielberg, stop giving me nightmares.
And that was directed by Tobe Hooper, who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But there's always been this kind of unknown thing where maybe Spielberg really did direct it, because apparently he was on set all the time. And all the time, and so a lot of people think maybe he was really directing it. All right, so that's it for this week's episode. Next week we have Green Lantern, as Lovely Roger is telling us. So come back next week and get lost with us again.